So, so here's the deal. This right here, David Putman. You know, he co-authored with Ed Stetzer the Breaking the Missional Code. Got a brand new book, man. Brand new book, Breaking the Discipleship Code. Now look, you guys know I'm ADD, and I don't read books. Unfortunately, this doesn't come in a cliff note or a movie yet. But took the thing home 2 days ago, already in the third chapter. Great book, incredible book about discipleship. And the thing I like about it, I'm going to be getting a few more and take some other guys through it, because it's not just a book about discipleship, it's also a book that helps you through the process of discipleship. Now the sales pitch is over with, man. We're going to talk to Dave.
Hey, let's just start with missional code. I just want you to know Ed didn't write missional code. Okay, got that straight?
Ed didn't write it at all.
No, Ed didn't write it at all. No, I'm kidding.
So we thought that, man. We just thought he was like, just sucking up off your coattails there.
No, Ed did write missional code, but hey, let me tell you about the discipleship code. And hey, really with it, it's my heart, it's my passion. It's about losing. I guess the theme of it is really losing my religion, finding the Jesus way. So I really try to answer 3 questions in it. One, what is a follower of Jesus Christ? And sounds like a simple question, but frankly, we made it way too complicated.
Right.
So that's really my task, is just sort of trying to strip it down and get back to just a simple, organic definition of what it means to follow Jesus that people can actually actually do. And so that's sort of the part 1 of the book. Part 2 is, hey, how do people become followers of Jesus? And what we're dealing with here is not simply a conversion that takes place from head to heart, but how do you work with people when it doesn't start in their head? What if their worldview is radically different? And how do we partner in our church, within the kingdom of God, to make disciples? What does that process look like? And it looks radically different, a new set of rules, and so we try to talk about that. And then the third part of the book, guys, is just, hey, what does a missional follower of Jesus look like in the world?
Right.
I mean, how do we get outside of our religious bubbles, the religious subcultures that we create often?
Sure.
And how do we get into politics? How do we get into the economy? How do we get into the environment? How do we get into our schools? How do we get into some major conversations where, frankly, being a Christian has been a barrier?
Right.
And so that's really the essence of what we're trying to do with the book.
Now, the thing I like about the book is it's not only, like I said before, it's not only about the discipleship and breaking the discipleship code. It's also, did you intentionally set it up also to be one that you could take other people through as kind of like a book study for a discipleship process? That's the thing I love about it, man. It's not just about discipleship, it's also a discipleship process tool.
Well, that was my heart. One of the things that I saw with breaking the missional code that Ed and I was able to do is that it was great for leaders. And leaders would read the book and they would get it, but at the same time, it wasn't written for, the guy who's sitting out there in the chair, in the pew, whatever he's on the ground, whatever he's sitting in, the common everyday guy who's attending our churches.
Right.
And so we got this great big missional conversation going on that we don't even understand.
Right.
So the idea behind the discipleship code was, let's break it down where anybody can understand it. Matter of fact, I think if you're looking for Jesus, you can find Jesus through this book. If man, if you'll take somebody through it, just read a chapter a week with somebody, talk about a greatest takeaway. I really believe through that relationship, coupled with the book, that you'll make a disciple.
Right.
So that's absolutely, Chris.
You guys just came off the success of breaking the missional code. I mean, it was a successful book. A lot of people read it. It's become very influential with church planners as well as church leaders throughout America and the world. I mean, what was the personal process that brought you through to now begin to put together this breaking the discipleship code? I mean, what personally was going on you and your spiritual life that brought you to the point that said, you know what, I think I want to write a book about this?
Yeah, well, in one of the chapters of Missional Code, I talk about spiritual formation with Ed. And really, as I look back on it, I really think the drive in my life and the drive in most people's life, I keep hearing the question from people, hey, what do we do with the dash? Is this it?
Right.
And, matter of fact, I was having a conversation the other day with one of our pastors, and we were talking about building buildings and filling them up, and we're doing some of that, but for us, it was such an empty conversation, to think that we would spend our entire life, even planting churches, building buildings, filling it up with people who just attend church.
Right.
There's got to be more,
Sure.
So it's an inner, man, it's just something that's been in my life. I've been in religious circles, and I call them religious circles intentionally, for all my life, and I've been seeking for something pure and honest that I found in Jesus. And frankly, I think that there's a lot of people still out there in the church. If they'll be honest, they're frustrated. I talked about this yesterday, and I had a number of people come up to me, who are leaders in the church, and they sort of wait for everybody to clear out,
Right.
because it's supposed to know this stuff. And they said, hey, how do you do this? How do you break the discipleship? How do I personally, I'm leading a large church, how do I break the discipleship code?
Right.
And so that was my heart, is putting a hand to people. But probably more importantly was what happened to me when I was writing the book. And in the process of writing the book, God just has an amazing way of taking you through a journey.
Right.
And so what I discovered, I broke the code for myself, but not really.
Right.
What really happened was the code broke me.
Right.
And I was going through a couple of things. In this book, you'll find it's very personal. I tell you about my life. I tell you about my kids. I tell you about my wife, because that's the essence of my story. Right. And I do write it in that way. But during the time I have a son in the 82nd Airborne that was in Afghanistan, and I started getting these strange phone calls where he had been ambushed, IEDs being flighted out to hospitals, and I found myself in the middle of a crisis. And it wasn't long after that my daughter called me. It's the weirdest year I've ever had. She's 21 years old, and she's in another city going to school, and she called me just screaming out her boyfriend had died on the operating table. And so I found myself in the middle of a crisis with my children. I found myself taking on their burdens, and I was getting crushed. I'm in the middle of writing this book.
Right.
And so what I discovered during that painful process was that for me, breaking the discipleship code was about losing my religion. And through the years that I had sort of taken on a bunch of stuff.
Sure.
Hey, subtly, I'm one that talks about it and against it and tries to rally the troops not to do that. But even in that context, I had done the very thing that I didn't want to do. And I discovered, while losing my religion, it was about rediscovering the simplicity of Jesus.
Right.
And his ways. And frankly, we're good at being relevant in our new churches. And Ed and I talk about that in Missional Code, about being biblically faithful but culturally relevant.
Right.
And really finding, I think we're good at being culturally relevant. I think we need to be better at biblically relevant or faithful. And how do you do that? Man, you do that by, just falling in love with Jesus and teaching others. Good at being culturally relevant.